Sangoham punah punah Satchidanandarupoham avamehavam avyayah. The meaning of this is unattached, unattached, unattached again and again. I am supreme consciousness, infinite existence, infinite consciousness, and infinite bliss. The conscious in me will never get destroyed. It is indestructible. With that prayer, we'll start talking about transformation, thoughts to meditation. Let's start with a Buddhist story. Buddha asked, what makes a chariot a chariot? His disciples answered, saying that wheels are parts of chariot, carriage is a part of chariot, horses drive the chariot, there are reins which control the horses. All these parts make a chariot a chariot. Buddha asked, well, these are all interdependent parts providing a functionality. Now, let us examine each of these parts. Let us drive the horses away. What happens? Is the chariot there? They said, yes, the chariot is there. We'll remove the wheels. Is the chariot there? They said, yes, the chariot is there because the carriage is there. Then he got the wooden structure of the chariot removed and burnt it and asked, where is the chariot now? They said, it is emptiness. So Buddha, from this object, took it to self and said, self or consciousness is also emptiness. So he started teaching his first school with non-self or called anatta or no atman. This story then was called Theravada, and then it went into other school called Madhyamika by Nagarjuna, and finally came to a light in the void as the final school of Buddhism. These are beautiful spiritual paths which allow one to reach nirvana by dropping the parts first. If all the parts are attached parts are removed, then only the essence, which is just the emptiness, remains. In non-dual school, which has been the subject, we have always felt that this attached parts of when they drop, there is an awareness of the self which experiences this dropping of the parts and going away from the parts into an experience on the awareness. And the chariot actually dissolves into an awareness field which is infinite, which is called consciousness. And when it melts in, dissolves into the consciousness, the subject also has an experience of the rising and disappearance in the consciousness of the object. And he understands this experience on his field of awareness. This is the this is the essence of non-dual school, whether it is with Advaita Vedanta or Kashmir Shaivism. So now let us examine more deeply how this school builds up. Basically, what happens is we call this awareness by many names. So I want for us to understand the names. We call it self, we call it awareness, consciousness. These are localized in an individual with limitation of space and time and limitation of consciousness, limitation of awareness. Whereas there is an infinite awareness that is available as we talked in the prayer. Why, why does this self, which is so pure, peaceful, and joyous in this way, when all the attachment goes off and is in its bliss form, gets attached to all this? This is like putting a veil on the self. The self actually has a veil around it, which we start putting on. And this is like an innocent child, a very innocent child at 5 years of age or 3 years of age, is not conditioned to any of the veils or any of the attachments. Like in the chariot, the parts get attached. The self is not attached to any of these parts when the child is innocent. As we grow, we are conditioned by identity, by the egoistic thought which comes in. This can come because of the conditioning of the language, religion, nationhood, fear, greed, perception, thoughts, emotions. These are all parts of the chariot. We become an engineer, doctor, we become a collector. All this adds on to making a big chariot of the self. And the self forgets the self, and the veil becomes the main self. The veil is basically the outer, like in ChatGPT, we call that the developer must have a ChatGPT around him. Like that, the veil sits on him, and the veil becomes all, all powerful. And the inside essence or the self or the being on which the awareness happens and on in which there is peace and joy kind of gets completely shrouded and completely absent. Or this outward journey makes somebody to become so egoistic that he will start, talking about how he is somebody. He gets happy when he is honored, he gets unhappy when he is insulted, and it leads to insecurity, anxiety, and to get to all polarities and trying to, meet success. And when he meets failures, all this happens because the veil plus the self is the entity now. Though the self is hidden in the entity goes on an outward journey where there is only veil. Veil means that is the outer structure which condition has put it in. This is happening due to egoic thoughts. Now, when you operate from entity, when you operate from being, there is a very big difference. I will give two examples for that. Let's say there is a music concert arranged in a hall inside a garden. Now, about 100 people have gathered, and the musician comes. To their utter surprise, they find the music hall is locked, and the person who was to bring the key hasn't come. The immediate reactivity is, where is the secretary? Where has he gone? Where is the key? Everybody gets so emotional, so anxious, and so reactive that the door is locked when the musician is waiting and nothing is going around. So they will start even going to judgments. This secretary is always like this. He is useless. He keeps forgetting even such important functions, stuff like that. This reactivity comes from the egoic mind of the people around there. If a person amongst them, let's say the musician himself, just looks at the situation and operates by creating a gap between the separate self, we call it, the veil is called the separate self and his self, then he can say, okay, this is the reality. Let us accept the moment as is positively. And he will say, let us go around this prayer hall because it's a beautiful garden and do a bhajan. So he goes and leads a bhajan group there. And in the meantime, one of the person, another person who is operating from the being can say and send a kid to the house of the secretary and get the key. The key is open. Everybody is joyous because they have prayed and done a bhajan. Get inside and work. So this is how operating from a being, when you are working from being and working from egoistic veil or separate self happens. Another example is, a flight cancellation can be an example. The, Another example today we face is people are, watching the TV show, and there are two narratives. The anchor is trying to make each group each group work against the other by provoking, and they keep fighting. The people who are watching have no role, but they start getting into this separate self, which is the egoic mind, get acceptance to one narrative and try to kind of get so excited that blood pressures might go up, they might scream, they might fight with a person who is their friend, who is sitting next to them, but he is supporting the other narrative. This goes on, and it is such a bad experience. And these two examples will serve you to understand what is operating from a being and what is operating from a self. If you are operating from being and self, and not from a separate self or a veil, your total approach will be different. So in the TV show, if you are doing it, you will allow that narrative of both sides to be heard, and take it as an experience to pass, but don't get connected to the content. As long as you are looking at it, but not getting it to content or identifying, you are operating from the being or the self. But if you connect it, it is the self. uh, it's a separate self or the veil. So the entity is with both. So we have to understand that this whole exercise, and in the end, they talk about the meditation, will all allow you to get into practice of being able to drop the separate self, or drop the veil and enjoy your peace within, on the awareness on which all these experiences take place. This is one of the fundamental thoughts which I'm sharing. Let us understand, therefore, self, being, and consciousness awareness is a better way of operating, and we have to be there while all experiences happen in awareness. Now, how do we come to know that this kind of a self exists in us? What is this big I? How do we remember when we are caught up in this entity with conditioning and with the narratives and with the music example I gave? How do you come out of it, and how do you remember this? That there is an unchanging capital I in me. You can find out that self or the capital I in you by looking at yourself when you are 80 years old, when you are 20 years old, when you are 40 years old, when you are 60 years old, when you are 70 years old. There is one person in you which remains unchanged. When you are 8 also, you are the same person. When you are 40 also, you are the same person. Your body has changed, your mind has changed, your lifestyle has changed. But you, as you are, that awareness of you is same 8, 20, 40, 70. That shows there is an unchanging I, and there is a, consciousness or a screen of awareness in you. This is from where you have to operate, and therefore you know that it exists. It is not something which you have not experienced, because you yourself know when you are 20 and when you are 70, you are the same person. Let us say there is one Srinivas. Srinivas is Srinivas inside himself on his experiences. When he's 20 or 70, it is the same Srinivas. But outside, his looks might have changed. He may not be able to, play the games he used to play. It's all related to the body. So you have to understand this fundamental change that happens outside in the outward journey, but inside the consciousness remains the same. Now I will get into some examples which will, kind of make it still better to understand. When you go to a ocean, there are waves in the ocean. Now this wave can be a very big wave or a small wave. This big wave may think that he will go to Florida beach, where, and it lands in Goa beach. And when it goes high, it celebrates, thinking that it is a great opportunity to conquer the whole sea. But what happens? It just transient in nature. It goes up and falls down and dissolves. So each wave, each separate self is like a wave. This separate self goes up with success, with somebodyness, with degree, with PhD, with being a collector, goes up, and then it dissolves because it has to dissolve. And the egoistic self, when it dissolves, one has to realize during this transition what is the essence of the wave and what is the essence of the ocean. The essence of the ocean and essence of the wave is water. This water is in the wave, the same water is in the ocean. Ocean is infinite, like the awareness and the consciousness we are speaking of. It is an infinite ocean, it is an infinite consciousness and awareness, and there is a limited wave which actually thinks in a form that that form is reality, and then the form dissolves and gets into awareness. This transit, this appearing in consciousness and dissolving consciousness happens to the entity, because essence of water remains as water. Therefore, the self or the awareness or the consciousness, which is water in the wave, is consciousness and awareness in the self, and that actually gets into the indivisible uh, ocean of which it is a part. There is no distinction between the two. This is what is non-dualism is all about. So you have the wave going up, and then the independent existence of the egoic mind, and then it realizes the essence is water, and the essence of ocean is also water. So these water is nothing but the same consciousness which is limited in a human being and expressed in the ocean as infinite. So this is one example. There is another example is about, you go to a movie and you see on the screen sadness, comedy, horror, you get identified with it. What gets identified with it is the separate self. Just like we get identified with samsara, with the separate self, in the movie also you get identified with all these emotions. But the screen on which it is played is very necessary for the movie to run, and the screen is neutral. It doesn't care whether you play a comedy or a horror or a happy movie. Whatever is played, it reacts. Similarly, in you, on the screen of your awareness, all this is played. If you can also take more deeply into this, there is an actor in the movie who is doing a shooting where he is playing a role of a god. And then after the shooting is over, he goes for a smoke, and he becomes a normal guy. But when he was on the screen, he was a god, and everybody bowed to him, and people put garlands on him, stuff like that. But the audience, when they go out, they do that. But the person who is inside clearly knows that he is no god. This is again another way of looking at the the play that happens with the egoistic self and the screen. So if on the screen, if you are attached with the screen, or if you are the screen, you can have these experiences play on the screen, and the screen is the awareness which is limited to the individual but is infinite, and you are a part of the same universe. For example, um, water in the wave is same as the water in the ocean. This is just a general understanding to give you about what is and how awareness uh, awareness and consciousness is to be understood as when the forms happen in the outside world. The forms can be a thought, forms can be an insult, forms can be an individual, forms can be you know a success. A form can be a failure. But if you are in the present moment, and if you are in the presence, you can actually create a gap between the separate self, which goes on this story of the wave and come back to the ocean, or which come back to the awareness on which this experience is taking place. And then you are able to operate from the being. And when you operate from your source, you are always with peace and joy, because your presence makes a very big difference in quality of what you are. Now, if there are two things which has happened here. When the water in the wave understands it is nothing but water in the ocean, and in the self, if the awareness understands that this is the indivisible awareness of the consciousness, infinite consciousness or infinite awareness, it's a part of that. It is the same quality as water is, and as our awareness is. Once that is understood, you can make, what is it called in Kashmir Shaivism, Pratyabhigna. Pratyabhigna means re-recognition. Re-recognition means you have always been water in the wave. You have always been, uh, filled with awareness in your stream. But you have gone and made a separate self. So once you realize you are nothing, but you are the unchanging I of 20, 40, 60, 80, and you are the first, you are feeling that you are a part of this infinite, indivisible awareness. The you get a feeling, you get a joy of understanding that you are the same as that. And when you know you are the same as that, the whole uh, re-recognition that I am divine, I am God, and I am that of the non-dual realization happens. Now, there is in Kashmir Shaivism this explanation about the limited time space we have in ourselves. We have the limited awareness we have. Just like in the wave, there is a water only, but there is a wave form actually. But the wave form is temporary, but the essence is permanent. That is, the water is permanent. Same way, our awareness inside us is permanent. And we have recognized that is the same as belonging to the indivisible whole. So, Karmi Shaivism says that Shiva consciousness produces through spanda pulsation a mirror in which Shakti comes up, and that there is this like a mirror, but no outward object. It is the same consciousness, same content of Shiva. And here, the individual, limited individuals are also consciousness, like this essence, we are all the essence. We are having those essence and playing those forms in the mirror with no outward object projected. It is Shiva consciousness only. So that is how the Jiva Jagatishwara is said to be all Shiva Tattvas in Kashmir Shaivism. In non-dual Shaivism, these individual forms come and dissolve like waves came and dissolved. And there is only one consciousness, and that is non-dual. And whatever appears in consciousness is Maya. That's just a clarification to understand the schools of spirituality. Now, what are we what are we up to? This talk is not on any of this which I told you, but this is very essential to understand the fundamentals in order to start the practice. Like in the chariot, each part is joined interdependently to give a form and functionality. The separate self also has joined all these parts of ego, and ego is nothing but a thought, and this has created this journey. This journey is programmed. This journey is given to us by nature. This journey is something which happens to everybody as automatically as possible, because it's a natural conditioning. This identity happens. The reverse journey is the most important and most difficult, because the reverse journey is sadhana. Reverse journey is dehypnotizing the hypnosis that has taken us to that far. That means we feel making money and being successful and being a character is important. And therefore, we are gone on that journey. It is important. It is a celebration. But it is the separate self should know this celebration is coming from the being, and it should not get, into an egoistic situation. That means it should not start thinking that it has done all that. It is. That's how in the reverse journey, you can do everything what you are doing, but you will start non-attaching. We started saying asangoham, punah punah, Sachidananda Rupoham, Ahamevaham Avyaya. So we keep coming back, coming back, coming back. How do we come back? So their sadhana is required because it's a reverse hypnosis, which is not the natural conditioning, which took us to that place of separate self. So we have to remove the veil. We have to completely change the veil, come back and reverse the journey to come into our own awareness and consciousness. That's what is sadhana is all about. So today, I'm going to talk about a meditation technique which I have practiced and would love others to kind of know about what is this practice. This is a meditation of non-doing. Again, I will go through an example to make it clear. We are doing continuously internal chat or external chat. And I'm looking here only at a limited way of stopping it and reducing thoughts and making thoughts not come, not suppressing. How do we do it? So this is a practical methodology to do your step one reverse journey. So you have to basically do nothing. You are just sit closing your eyes and allow thoughts to come in meditation. Thoughts, thousands of thoughts will come, not to worry. Imagine you are on a platform where trains are passing in the railway station. The trains are thoughts. So the platform in front of you is filled with trains. Hundreds of trains passing and going and passing and going. They are like your thoughts when you sit in meditation. Please don't worry about it. Don't try to suppress it or do anything. Sometimes you may actually enter a train and travel also. That means one thought has been so forceful to you. So you started imagining further step, further step, further step in that thought. No problem. If you have taken a train, take a train. But whenever you remember, I'm actually meditating and I'm not supposed to, get into a train and I'm having so many trains passing by. All that you have to do is you have to remember you are on the platform. How the platform is nothing but field of awareness. How is it that you are back on platform? How do you do that? You have to have a technique. The technique is simple. Please come back to the sensations of your palm. Do nothing. Whenever you remember, I am sitting in meditation, I claimed a train and went in a thought train, or I am seeing so many trains passing in front of me. What do? Don't do anything. Let this keep happening. When you remember, no, I was just meditating, you come back to the platform or the awareness by looking at the sensation of your palm. You have to sincere, and the sensation may be tingling, sensation may be itching, sensation may be heaviness. There may be no sensation, but just watch it. The moment you watch it, you are on the platform and you are not looking at the trains nor getting into a train. This is the technique. Now, with this technique is, like I said, we are all have to do dehypnotizing in order to reach there, to take one step back. So this step will bring you back to the platform, bring you back to the platform every now and then. When you do this for 3 months, nearly the number of times reduces, the number of times you get into the train reduces. This is the first realization you have. When you do it this for 15 minutes a day or twice a day for 6 months, you will see in front of the platform there are no trains or there are very few trains once in a while. And you know how to get back to the platform. You are not claiming any of the train. This trains are your internal chats and external chats. So the moment you stop this chatting in you, the thoughts are broken and you are going slowly in the reverse journey to back to your consciousness. The beauty is, if you do this for a year, you will suddenly find that your internal chatting has completely stopped. You no more, when you are walking or driving, you are no more imagining some fictitious thing about your office and this. So you start coming more and more into present moment. And when you come to presence, you are already in the presence, in the means you are already in the ocean of awareness. And we are in ocean of awareness, the separate self. it will be very difficult for it to survive, and you can start operating from the being. So this practice is going to be very helpful if you do regularly to make you stop internal and external chats. And this would be a good, I would say, a good starting point. And this would lead you to the understanding of being aware that in life, when you handle any situation, you don't have to be reactive because it is a form that is coming to you. And you like that music or the flight cancellation or, the TV show that is going on, all these things that are happening in your life, you can handle with understanding it as an experience on your awareness and understanding that it is a form and you are nothing but peace and joy. Thank you.